Aaron and I stayed up late playing fucking Elden Ring, not knowing it was daylight savings time. So we're both a little off our rocker.
The big snake man did kill us many times, but we got him in the end.
Yeah, thank you to our friends who popped in to help us. And by our friends, I mean strangers we'll never meet.
Yes, but shout-outs. Xenosaga 2 seems like it is a game about family and Nietzsche. Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Nietzsche.
And this week, we talk Nietzsche and Namco with Xenosaga Episode 2, Beyond Good and Evil. Before we have a conversation that fully explodes my spleen, remember you can help me on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron, not your spleen.
It's this was a property that we did watch. It's been, you actually played through this whole game in November, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's been a little bit longer for you. I just watched the cutscene videos on YouTube over this weekend, but yeah, this is another one of our ones where we play through an obscure JRPG and have very in-depth conversations about it. We're going to try to do something a little bit different in that we might go through our normal plot summary and characters and stuff, but we're actually going to spend a lot of the time trying to dissect what we liked and didn't like about this property and try to, Leyla, you pictured this as like a writing workshop because just straight up, this is a fucking bad game.
Yeah, this game is the reason I put this franchise down for 20 years.
I mean, I get why.
Yeah, it's not good in any facet, I would say. How long were the cutscenes that you watched?
It was only 4.5 hours, so not terrible as far as like what we've done on this program. But like, if I felt them.
Yeah, the gameplay is 15 or so hours long, I think, maybe 20. It's a short game, and the problem with it structurally, and we'll get into this more in depth, but that awful sequence inside Momo's head is most of the game, and the gameplay is torment. So...
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's most of Disc 1, and then you do some Proto-Omega stuff, but before we get into that, it's my turn to do the summary.
Thank Christ.
Yeah.
Thank Yeshua.
Thank Christ
chaos.
Thank Christ and Yeshua were two different people. So
great.
I'm going to keep this actually kind of brief for the sake of everyone's sanity. Because this game, for being 20 hours, is kind of 20 hours of nothing. So part 1, you pull up into Second Miltia with the whole gang. They all kind of split up because Momo needs to get the Y data inside her head analyzed. Y data being the secret code that her dad left in her head. She's a Realian, a type of manufactured human that opens the gate to the original Miltia, where there was a war, and the Zohar, which is a Jesus battery. Shion, Chaos, and Junior go meet Shion's brother Jin, who is new to the franchise in a more permanent way. He like appeared in a phone call, kind of, in 1. And you saw him at the end cutscene where Cosmos was, like, saving the ship with her angel wings. Jin in this game is insufferable. I will say he gets better in 3, but he sucks really bad in this game. He's very annoying. Shion is also just needlessly aggro in this game. So the whole journey is bad. I kind of forget where a lot of the rest of them go, but the Momo gang goes to, Vector, and they go get ready to dive into her head. Problem, Albedo put a virus in her head, so when they try to dive, he shuts her personality down and steals the Y data. So the whole gang has to get together and dive inside Momo's head in order to get her personality back and see if they can't resolve the situation. Inside Momo's head is actually it's another like inner world simulation, and she's there without being able to like participate really. She's just kind of there to be a player character. Her personality's locked. And the what ensues then is a long series of flashbacks that take place in one summer and one winter, where you get to meet Dr. Yuriev, who is Junior and Guinan's like creator, their dad. You get the backstory on Negredo, Junior, and Albedo. And also their sister Citrine, who, if their numbers 666, 667, and 669, Citrine is 668. She really just girl bosses. Gaslight Gatekeep girl boss of these like synthetic warrior children. You find out that Yuli and Joachim Mizrahi's like human daughter, their biological daughter, died of a very strange and very rare nervous disorder that had to do with like, I guess, Udu messing with her brainwaves, and so the URTVs, because of their connection with Udu, were the only ones able to dive into her head and actually communicate with her. Junior and this little girl had kind of like a little baby romance, because, you know, they were both children, and unfortunately she does die. You also get to see Albedo's Jokerification, which we'll talk about. I actually thought it was fine. And then once the gang gets Momo back and they come back out, because Albedo got the Y data through a series of events, you find out that, hey, fun fact, there's actually a big golden angel spaceship in the core of the planet called the Proto-Merkaba, and it uses the Zohar as a battery. And now, because of the way it disrupted space, the new thing is that everyone has to unite and go after Proto-Merkaba. And then that's what happens. And after all that, everyone meets back on the Durandal. And Junior realizes he has to go into the Udu Cloud to go fight Albedo in the most fucking god-awful annoying boss fight you ever done seen, in which neither you or Albedo can die until a dice rolls and tells you that Albedo can die. It took me 20 minutes. It was not fun. And then, yeah, everyone's like sad, I guess, at the end. And I truly, like, that's all. If that didn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. It didn't make sense to me after 25 hours either.
Yeah, not only did I watch all of the cutscenes this weekend, but I also watched a 30-minute explainer before I did this podcast, and I still didn't follow what you were saying just now, which is going to make this a difficult discussion, but we're going to press on regardless. Let's
just talk about the characters, because they got new looks. I don't know why the franchise pivoted to realism from anime. It didn't transfer well. I don't like Cosmos's lava lamp body at all. Shion does not look like herself whatsoever. They also got a new voice cast, which I don't want to disparage the voice actors. I want to disparage the direction that they got, because it was not great direction. So yeah. Let's talk about our girl Shion. She was so mean.
She really was. I mean, besides the conflict that she has with Jin, where she is just like constantly sniping at him, she also just like fucking is constantly yelling at poor Alan, who, you know, is, you know, hopelessly in love with her. But like, I just remember her being like, come on, Alan, be a man and help me fight God or some shit. It's just like, come on, Shion, cut your poor subordinate a break.
Yeah, she does not give anyone a break. And also it's funny to watch these like humanoid characters try to bring the physicality of anime into the performance. Because like, okay, so when Shion first runs into Jin, who she's just avoiding as much as she humanly can, she physically dives from her chair at the restaurant into like a little corner and hides from him, which like in an anime, if you had like a little motion blur and they zipped around, it could work. It looks really weird to like have an adult human woman give that kind of performance. Yeah, so it's just not fun. The parts that made Shion fun to me were moments of like, every time she was mean, it was to like help someone grow, and she had moments of compassion to balance that out. There were no moments of compassion at all. It was just, she was just mean. And
Yeah, I wanted to because that's the thing that I noticed about this is that, like, you know, we see Shion being in the first game a little bit of, like, maybe, like, the kind of person who doesn't take notice when they, like, insult someone because they're just like, oh, you know, I'm just, you know, saying what's true and right. But, like, also would have these moments of self-reflection, especially with regards to her dead boyfriend, where she's like, okay, I'm reflecting about this, and I feel sad about this, and that's why I'm going to, you know, take these measures to, you know, take care of Cosmos. And, like, in this one, we don't really see her do anything. There's a kind of a good moment where she is, like, fighting to keep Cosmos under her, like, jurisdiction, because she has to turn Cosmos over to the government or whatever. And I kind of like the moments after that where she's just, like, wandering around her hometown depressed. And, like, I liked that how they characterized her like that. But the rest of it, like, yeah, I feel like it wasn't really in character for her. Like, she's, you know, maybe we could read that as, like, her lashing out because, you know, Cosmos has been taken away. She has to deal with her shitty brother. But, you know, I do wish that we had got a little bit more of her being like, you know, I'm trying to help you. And I just didn't read that in the cutscenes.
yeah, no, it wasn't there at all. It was not fun to watch. Let's talk about Jin. How did you feel about our boy?
So he has, like, 2 cool sword fights. And that's I mean, those are cool. I like the sword fights, but, like, he just seems like he sucks ass. Like, I'm going to be using the phrase sucks ass a lot today, I think, unfortunately. But, like when we meet him, he is just, like, he is deliberately framed as somebody who, like, is not interested in what Shion has to say. Like, and to the point where he is, like, talking over her and ordering, like, something at this bar that they go to. And then Shion's like, hey, are you paying attention to me? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely paying attention to you. Bring those drinks over here, my guy. And it's like, you know, it's 2005 era animation and you know, maybe clumsily translated voice lines. So, like, it doesn't come quite as naturally as maybe, you know, something that was done by an all English speaking team of both animators and voice actors. But, like, it just reads as so strange, and it comes across in a way that's just like, okay, we want to make sure that you know that Jin does suck. But then also later on we get, like, a whole bunch of stuff about how he's like, oh, I just never could protect Shion, and, like, you know, I wish I was doing what he says that somebody else is doing for Shion what he wishes he could do. I don't remember what character that is, but, like,
I think it's Alan. I think. Or Chaos.
Maybe Chaos. I truly don't remember. But basically, he expresses this desire to be like, yeah, you know, I wish I could have, you know, had that relationship with my sister, because it's revealed that she, like, blames him for their parents' death. I don't know why. Okay, good. So it's never explained. Excellent.
I know, no, it's explained, but the reaction, her reaction to it makes sense only insofar as, like, a child having thought that. I feel like, I don't know, maybe she just, like, didn't process her grief ever. But to still have that reaction as an adult feels disingenuous.
Yeah, I mean, she's, like, fully 30 at this point. Like, she has a 401k. Like, she can't just be like, if you were there, he would have stopped my parents from dying. It's like, all right, Shion, whatever. Again, like, another instance of her being, like, weirdly unreasonable in this one.
Yeah, which, like,
I mean, I don't...
that's not even a spoiler. No, he wouldn't have stopped them from dying. Not at all. There's no way he could have. It was, like, the thing that killed them was very strong.
Did they die at Second Milch or Second Milch?
They died. They both died during the Milchen conflict. Her mother
Milchen conflict, yes.
Her mother was ill and was on her deathbed anyway, but then got, like, thoroughly skewered, and then her dad died in the same room from the same thing. And those creatures are tough, and I don't think her brother could have taken them on.
Was it a Gnosis?
No, those were only on their way at that point.
Okay, so this is pre-Gnosis. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Am I supposed to know?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But good. You will. It will be thoroughly explored in the third. Don't you worry.
Okay. Yeah. We'll uncover that mystery next month. But yeah, just weird. Just a weird I mean, I don't like Jin in this one.
Nah, he sucked. I do like that the most charming moment he kind of gets is when Junior and Chaos are at his house and it's a bookstore, and Junior's like completely ignoring him and like picking out books, and he's so sad he can't buy them because he's fighting with Shion. Like,
yeah.
I thought that was nice. So, Cosmos didn't really... She was fine. She was there.
Cosmos really does not feature basically at all in this, in my understanding. This is really the fucking Albedo, Rubido, Negredo show and I guess Momo too. Like those, it really centers on Momo and the three color boys. Because like, you know, our poor android, she shows up to like, you know, do some cool shield blasts, but we basically don't get any of the, you know, exploration of interiority or like her, you know, becoming her own person. There's a cool bit where like Shion's in trouble and Cosmos like hears her cries from across the universe and turns the like, you know, robot pod that she's being like monitored into a motorcycle. It just flies away, which is very funny.
No, it was extremely dope. I love that part.
But besides that, yeah, poor Cosmos doesn't get a whole lot of screen time.
Which, like, honestly, good, because listen, I didn't want her to be ruined by this disaster of a video game. Alan gets a very short end of a stick, and that's all I can manage to say. He is my same old good boy who is just yelled at constantly.
He opens the game by like accidentally stepping on Shion's glasses, and you know, it's just like he spends the whole game paying for that.
Which, like, is such an odd justification for her not wearing her glasses through the game. Like, that's the only reason they wanted to, like, Yassify Shion.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So he steps on her glasses and she doesn't have those dorky-ass things. She gets a bag, but, like, god damn, you guys, they're... Just say she put her contacts.
Yeah, they literally... One time your coworker accidentally breaks your glasses and all of a sudden you're wearing a crop top and going to bars and shit.
She
like that.
really gets Yassified in the third one. Like, Shion becomes a hot girl. It's wild.
All right, sure.
Junior's fine in this one. He's sad. We get that he's sad.
I mean, this is the Junior game. This is all about Junior and how he feels and his complicated relationship with his apparently conjoined twin, who is immortal.
Oh my
God.
God.
Can regenerate their like head and shit.
Okay, I might as well. Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Listen, just because they separated Junior and Albedo in the story, we can't separate them in this conversation.
Okay, yeah, so hear me out. So Albedo can't die. He thinks that all his family, his brothers that he's very attached to, like unhealthily attached to, he also thinks they can't die. So when...
He's like a baby starfish.
He really is. And
he's like, oh, if I just, you know, tear this man's arm off, it'll grow back. That's how things work.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, you are TVs. You guys can just regenerate, right? Like, why do you care so much? And his brothers are like, what are you talking about? We can't regenerate. And he's like, what? And he blows his own head off to prove a point for the second time in this franchise, and it just grows back. And his brothers are like, no, we can't do that, dude.
They're like horrified. There's like a good 10 seconds where they're just like screaming terrified. It's like, and then his head grows back and they're just like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck?
So Albedo finds out that his parents will die someday. That's basically what happens. He finds out that he will be alone and his brothers will die. And that kind of starts his spiral. That spiral is exacerbated when he gets infected by Udu during the Miltian conflict. And that is why we have the Albedo we know today.
Okay. Like, I kind of like his you know, descent into, you know, radicalization. Like, I think it is interesting to be like, you know, what if you taught a child that at a very young age that, you know, everybody they know, you know, would die and, like, they would just be left alone for forever because they're immortal. And, like, you know, I think they go a little bit extreme. They swing a little bit too hard. Like, there's a bit where he is like there's like a flashback where he's like literally digging graves for Junior and Guinan.
Yeah,
Negredo. They have so many fucking names.
Same guy.
His brothers. But like, and like, I thought that was like a little much, but also it did kind of illustrate for me where Albedo was as a character, and I was like, okay, that's, I think they're overdoing it a little bit, but also Albedo's whole character is just like, turned up to 11. So like, I liked that bit. I just the rest of the stuff where it's like, anyway, we're gonna make him do a bunch of terrible shit, and we're still gonna ask you to sympathize with him in the end.
Oh God! I think the Albedo grave digging would have been more effective if it happened after he was infected and like fully off his rocker. Like if we entered the like one of the many evil spaceships that I get confused, and there were just like gravestones for Negredo and Rubido. And he would be like, oh, like when you die, like you can rest with me and we'll be together forever. Like that would have made more sense to me. But yeah, him digging the graves is a bit much. So, and this is also the reveal of why Junior can't age. Because, okay, how did this make sense to me? I made sense of this before. In as much sense as it could be made of. So, because Albedo is the, like, regenerative part of Rubido, him not having, like, that part of him stops his body from, like, progressing.
Yeah, Albedo's his picture of Dorian Gray.
Yes. And so Albedo ages, but Rubido does not, even though he is, like, older, technically. All three of them are the same age. There's this okay, I'll just tell you this now. There's an incredibly stupid reveal in 3 that is so funny to me because it's like, I forget who's talking to Junior. Someone. It's one of the like, Jesus-associated characters, and they're like, Albedo, Rubido, this is your true form. And, like, behind Rubido, god damn it, like, behind Rubido, it fades in, like, this, like, facing away from the camera, this, like, naked model of a grown-up Rubido. It is so stupid.
It's like, this is what you would look like if you aged. But you don't, so this doesn't matter.
In theory, I guess he should start aging, because him and Rubido, like, or him and Albedo merge back together at some point. I forget if it's in 2 or 3.
It wasn't in this one.
It's the logical conclusion to their arc. I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything.
Yeah, I'm not invested in this, so.
Yeah, so it's fine. I'm going to be real fast and loose with spoilers. So, yeah, their whole shit is so stupid. We'll talk about Albedo a little more later, because there's some implications and some odd choices that are made that I do loathe with every cell in my body. Dr. Mizrahi.
I just wanted to talk about her because, like, this game's narrative is very interested in family relations. So, like, her relationship with Momo, for instance, like, that's like the central point of their relationship is, like, she, like, has neglected Momo for most of her life, because one, Momo looks like Dr. Mizrahi's real daughter, Sakura, who like, died because of that disease, right? And but, like, her husband, Joachim, was like, no, we have to make this android look like our dead daughter. And Dr. Mizrahi, in her not to defend Dr. Mizrahi, but, like, if your ex-husband made a clone of your dead child, I would be a little bit weirded out by it. I get it. But, like, she has to have a whole conversation with Ziggurat about how that's a different person, and because that's a different person, you have to treat them differently. And, like, her whole arc is, like, first, like, oh, I'm going to be nice to Momo because I know that she's been programmed to respond to being nice, having warm family relationships, which is fucking stupid. It's like, oh, if you're nice to somebody and treat them like you would treat a family member, they're going to do better on their fucking statistical tests. Like, the malware will run better, I guess, or I don't know. Fuck. It's dumb, but basically her whole arc is like, oh, actually it turns out Momo is, like, way different than my daughter was, and they are different people, and I guess I should just try to be nice to you anyway.
Yeah, that's yeah, that about sums up my thoughts too. We talk about Negredo in this game. Does he do the murder in this one?
he shoots their like dad. Yeah. Begins with a Y.
Yeah, he shoots
Dr.
Yuriev.
Y, whatever.
Dmitry Yuriev, of course.
Yuriev.
Of course, the Slav.
Yeah, sorry. And then he becomes Dmitry Yuriev.
Opposite. So Yuriev kind of infects Negredo.
Okay.
I don't know how.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yep, that's an important part of 3 that I still can't parse.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. That's it. 3 is... Okay. 3 is... 2 is the fucking darkest depths of depravity. It's such a bad game. 3 is fine. 3 is a good time. 3 is very fun. There's a lot of fun things that happen in it. And it's a lot more sufferable, but you do have to make it through 2 to get to 3. So, yeah. Those are our characters. They sure are. And that's okay. So, I don't even know how to break this down. What do you think, overall, grand vision, this game was trying to achieve, narratively?
I think Is this Xenoblade or Xenogear? I don't remember.
This is Xenosaga.
Neither. Xenosaga.
Great.
I'm sorry. I'm so tired.
Good. Yeah. Aaron and I stayed up late playing fucking Elden Ring, not knowing it was daylight savings time. So we're both a little off our rocker.
The big snake man did kill us many times, but we got him in the end.
Yeah, thank you to our friends who popped in to help us. And by our friends, I mean strangers we'll never meet.
Yes, but shout-outs. Xenosaga 2 seems like it is a game about family and Nietzsche. And that's a pretty high concept, straight up.
Yeah, that's not easy to parse. Well, so... yeah, keep going.
I was just going to say, and like, so I think it does achieve... Achieve is a strong word. It shows us that there are characters who are related that consider themselves family, and that they have complicated relationships with each other, and sometimes they have to quote, go beyond good and evil, to quote the text, to when they're dealing with them, right? When fucking what's her name, the goddamn main character of this goddamn series, Shion, thank you, Jesus. Like they find the original Zohar, and like 2 of her Realian friends, I guess, are hooked up to it. And she's like, oh no, we have to save them, because she was tasked by another ghost to save them. And Cosmos is like, no, I'm just gonna destroy them and the Zohar. Shion has to choose and be like, okay, well, I have to let you kill them, because that's the best thing that's going on. That's the best way that this whole thing can be resolved. Similarly, when we're talking about Albedo and Rubido, their final conflict, Rubido doesn't necessarily want to fight Albedo. He doesn't want to kill him, but he ultimately does defeat him, because he knows it's the right thing to do, and he embraces his full power. He goes Red Dragon mode, I guess, or whatever the fuck that was. And don't explain it to me. I don't
know. I wouldn't know how.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you don't know what that means either.
They keep saying it, and then I don't know.
He's the horseman of war. But like, don't worry about that. That's fine. And the game is trying to hint like, okay, yeah, there's going to be some hard choices made. And I think this is partially a problem with Nietzsche's philosophy. We'll drop this video that I watched that basically broke down the main points of what the book Beyond Good and Evil is about. But basically, my understanding is that it is about how, right? So we talked about the will to power, and everybody's will is to shape reality around them, and to make others submit to their will. and this one, it is about destroying old ideas of philosophy. There's a lot of stuff about how like Christians and Jews, because they were persecuted by the Romans, they created these religions in which they're like, okay, all the Romans stuff, all the stuff that they like fucking and eating, like, and having cool parties, that's actually bad. And that's like, Frederick, that's quite a take. But sure, whatever. That his whole thesis is that like Christianity is an anti-life religion because it you want to embrace the spiritual world. You since you have no power in the material world, you embrace the spiritual world where you believe you will have power. But also it talks about how you have to supersede morality, right? Destroy the morality of Christianity, destroy the binary of good and evil and achieve something more. This is where we get into Ubermensch shit, right? This is where we get the, stuff that eventually evolved into Nazism and fascism. So thanks for that, Fred. But like, when you boil it down and try to apply it to a game that is highly unrelatable, you just get these ideas that are just like, sometimes you have to do things that are morally questionable. And it's like, yeah, I guess you do, Fred. I guess you do. But that's just like how storytelling works. Like sometimes if you're making a story that's not, very simplistic, sometimes you have to make a hard choice. And like that, it is very hard to make that a core tenet of your game that you're trying to make, because like it's not revolutionary to be like, sometimes you're going to have to make a choice and that is going to affect, well, it's not the players doesn't make a choice, but the characters in the game have to make a choice, and that's going to be, it's going to make them feel sad. That's not new. Right? People have been making hard choices for a very, very long time. And I think that Nietzsche's whole trying to center your game around something like becoming, beyond the concept of going beyond good and evil is not interesting, unfortunately. I think they do a lot of great aesthetic stuff that's very interesting. I think we should talk about the difference between, making something that is boring but, technically good, and something that is technically terrible, like Xenosaga 2 is, but like aesthetically pretty interesting. But yeah, like I don't know that this game achieves what it wants to, but that's not necessarily. I mean, no, hold on. It is a lot of the game's fault. I don't want to absolve this game, but also if you right, this game famously was supposed to be 6 games and not 3. They're trying to do a lot of shit. They're trying to compress a lot of shit. They're trying to boil down a lot of ideas, and they don't get a lot of time to extrapolate on them. So like, I want to extend some grace to the people who made this.
Oh no, for sure. Like the devs behind this did their best. It's just the final product is absolutely flawed. But okay, so I think you said something interesting that could be the basis of our little like writer's workshop here. Which is that, yes, making gray morality the center of your narrative and being like, sometimes you have to do things you don't agree with is not inherently very like interesting. When Shion is in front of the Zohar and Cecily and Kath, who are the 2 Realians that are hooked up to the Zohar, to stabilize it, I think is their whole thing. They're Fabronia, who Fabronia was Shion's caretaker on Milsha. They're her sisters, and the ghost of Fabronia like asked her to free them. She didn't say what freeing them meant. It meant killing them. Shion does have a mental breakdown kind of in the middle of all of this, saying like she's tired of, like, she doesn't want to make this choice anymore. And I don't think that moment is particularly well executed, because what the fuck else are you supposed to do with these like comatose, dismembered Realians? Like, they have been in pods for 12 years. Their bodies are decaying. Like, there is... Yeah,
like, this isn't like you should take people off life support if they're disabled conversation. This is they're like literally cut in half.
Yeah,
like,
no, they're
half
missing...
of them are like, there's like wires and shit coming out of them. Like, they're functionally dead.
They're decaying. Like yeah, you can see their inside machinery. Which, I mean, shout out to the modelers, because holy shit, doing that on PS2 graphics is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it looked good.
But I think there is something to be said where you have an ensemble game where you're not controlling your ensemble's decisions, you're only controlling your ensemble's combat, where you could frame this narrative to make Shion feel increasingly helpless and have her reclaiming her agency be the emotional turning point of this narrative. So, you know, in talking about, like, so the big drama, right, is the Mizrahis and the kind of like Yuriev conglomerate together. Having, you know, that feeling of helplessness in terms of, first of all, Albedo infecting Momo, which, like, let's talk about it. The implication that the narrative poses is that Albedo assaulted Momo. I hate this. I hate this. There's no reason for this to be in here. It is off-putting, and the worst part about it is that Momo never gets to confront him, and she has to, like, forgive him at the end.
He literally gets taken to heaven by angels.
Yeah, he gets taken to, like, machine heaven, I guess. What? Why?
It's fucking stupid.
What are you talking about, you fucking dipshit? He's, you know, so... You know, first of all, I guess here's problem one that we have to resolve. Albedo needs to not be this evil. Like, he needs to, we either have to pick, like, do we want the audience to sympathize with him, or is one of those kind of, like, helpless, beyond good and evil acts the fact that he has to rejoin with Junior even though he's evil, right? Like, you can't do both, and this game tries really, really hard to do both. So, like, what do you, I don't know, like, in terms of the URTVs, like, what do you think would have been more satisfying? Like, do you just go full ham with him? Or is there anywhere in his whole thing, like, a shred of sympathy that could be used to actually make him feel human?
So if we're going to take Albedo as is and, you know, let all the terrible stuff that he does in the first two games stand, which, you know, aside from the assault stuff, I think is, you know, fine. If they cut that, the story would lose nothing. For our sake, let's cut it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't either. I broadly think that most narratives should not have that in it. But if we're going to leave Albedo as somebody who is flawed and, you know, we are largely supposed to identify as the antagonist, I think that the best way to engage with the themes of going beyond good and evil, and trying to, right, Nietzsche is often frames things as like a conflict between wills, and, like, you know, that's where we get Albedo and Rubido's, like, clash, you know, kind of culminates in this, right? I have a whole separate rant about how Nietzsche's whole he talks about how when a rabbit eats a carrot, that is the fucking battle between wills, because it's the rabbit's desire for nutrition that overpowers the carrot's desire to not get digested. It's a really stupid fucking philosophy that Friedrich goddamn Nietzsche posits, but, like, that's how the whole, he says Descartes stupid because he thinks that I, by supposing that the I exists, he's already gone too far. But he does say that, like, anyway, the whole world is a battle between, you know, digesting carrots and shit. It's really stupid. Anyway, if we are going to try to engage with that god-awful philosophy, we want to have Albedo, you know, leave him as being a shitheel or whatever, but it should be Rubido's response to him, right? It should be him, because we never really see him, you know, take on the, like, engage with the fact that, like, oh, he always believes that Albedo can be redeemed. He always thinks that, like, you know, he's still my brother. He is always willing to afford him that level of grace. And I don't think they give that conversation. We don't see him. I mean, I guess we do in some ways see why he is sympathetic, but just because somebody is sympathetic doesn't mean that, you know, they deserve this redemption arc that they're trying to go for. And I think that to engage with those themes of going beyond good and evil, Junior has to be like, I'm going to have to merge with this guy that sucks, and I don't know how to feel about that. And also, because I am trying to, you know, reclaim my own agency, steer the course of my own life, you know, I need to increase the force of my own will to power, or fucking whatever. I have to, you know, overcome these terrible things that Albedo's done and forge my own understanding of the world and, absorb him into myself. I think that we have to frame it in the reactions to the bad person and not necessarily, the bad person themselves, right? Like, I want to shout out our one of my favorite, fucking Poppy War, right? Like Rin is interesting because of, everybody else's reactions to her, right? Like when we see, I mean, I guess this is maybe, I think I'm dragging Poppy War down to I think Poppy War does not need to be in this arena of conversation. It needs to be up in the stands somewhere in the fucking VIP seats. But like, I just think that, if you're trying to position an antagonist, right? Antagonists are bad because of the ways that people react to them and like trying to grapple with how to engage with them.
Right. I think that's the thing, right? Is so there is not enough exploration of the conflict between Rubido's perception of Albedo and the reality of Albedo, because Rubido very clearly still sees that man as his little brother who was scared and who he failed, right? Because fundamentally that's how he feels. He feels like, oh my God, because I lost concentration when we were facing down Udu, Albedo got infected. And so Albedo, the way he is my fault, and that is my brother, and he needs me. And I think that even just the kidnapping of Momo and implanting the Y data in her head should have been enough grounds for him to start to reevaluate that relationship and to be like, oh my God, no, that's a monster. That is not my brother anymore. And then come to the conflict of, oh my God, in order to, I think it would have been actually more interesting if they made Albedo and Rubido's story a story of mutually assured destruction, of if one dies, the other dies. If you're gonna play at the conjoined twin thing, play it up. You know what I mean? Like really lean into your own bullshit science. So if it's a story of like, okay, if one dies, then so does the other, and therefore they need to keep Albedo alive, in order for Junior to live, but like, if Albedo stays alive, it's going to be bad, and the only way out for them is to merge together. Then there's more incentive for him to pursue that option. And then the conflict needs to be, like, oh my God, my brother's a monster, and I need to reabsorb him. I have fought so hard to be the person I am today. How is this going to change me? And then being able to lean on his found family of this ragtag bunch of adventurers to get the emotional support to like be able to move forward with this decision. And therefore you can still have this one-on-one showdown with Albedo, but it would take place inside of Junior's head. And I think the way you could draw an interesting parallel would be because the whole gang gets to go into Momo's head to help save her. I think if they couldn't do that for Junior, I think it would be like an interesting parallel to be like, hey, like we did this before, but that's not the kind of like weird Udu magic that this thing takes place in, because that's basically what happens. He goes in like an Udu cloud and fights Albedo. Like you could still have that, and then having that kind of moment of helplessness for the whole group, in having to support Junior, and you could have some like pretty grim conversations about what happens if he becomes more Albedo than Rubido. But there's not enough of an interest in having that conversation, and I mean, this is not a spoiler because it's pretty obvious. Albedo becomes the White Testament, so like even him merging back in with Junior doesn't entirely make sense because, well, I guess he doesn't merge back in with Junior in this one. I guess that happens in 3. Doesn't matter. It's gonna happen. Like Albedo having this new lease on life as a testament like doesn't entirely make sense either. So you could just eliminate that by having him remerge together with Junior in the second game, and then all you have left to solve is the puzzle of Negredo and Yuriev, who are also kind of in this mutually assured destruction path, because that's how Yuriev stays immortal. He possesses his designer children.
I see.
Yes. So that, I think, I don't know, thoughts, feelings?
No, I mean, I think that's right. Gosh, I mean, like, I think we have the privileged position of being able to take this in pieces, right? The other part of this is that there are just too many other fucking characters and concepts going on here. Like, I think that, you know, so much of this game should have been cut if we wanted to make the story work, and like I just don't think that would happen in like a production cycle of something like this. I believe the director had to step away from the project because like of basically they said that like, oh, the way if I ran it, then it wouldn't get done properly, and it would take too long or whatever. But yeah, like we are able to like take the concepts that are, you know, there are ideas here, there are places where the story could, you know, have changed and worked differently, but I think that the, you know, demands of making a very, you know, anticipated video game do, you know, force you to have extraneous, you know, bullshit. Like there are a lot of storylines here that just don't matter to the central conflict, and that's a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, I don't know the production realities of this game 20 years ago, or even the production reality of the industry 20 years ago. But, you know, you would hope that there was, you know, some mechanism for like asset reuse or anything like that would have made the visuals at least easier to navigate. But, you know, there are all new models for everything, and it makes you wonder, like, was this a directorial choice? Was this a market demand? Was this a demand of the technology? Because obviously that is, you know, a strain on the production. Then you have the fact that it was cut from 6 games to 3. So there's just like a lot of odd factors going into this that made this like a bad experience. Truly, like. And, you know, in having this little, like, workshop-y conversation, I do want to make it clear, like, I hate it. I don't like to use the phrasing of, like, okay, like, we fixed it. Like, there's no fixing it. It's just us trying to, like, puzzle through how we would approach the problems that this is positing. There's 1,000 different ways to, like, rewrite your game or someone else's game and, you know, put your own, like, subjective spin on it. I don't want to be like, oh, we're right. We're not, you know. It's just an exploration. Yeah. But yeah, I think the other important part to talk about is like, well, you know, the like Mizrahi stuff. I think it's like fine, right? I think if you fix or if you adjust the URTV mess, I think that the Mizrahi stuff falls into place a little bit easier, right? I
don't know what Mizrahi stuff you're talking about.
Well, like the whole family drama with them, right? I feel like if you sort out the URTV stuff, then there's like an easier way to make the whole Momo, like, getting her brain hacked thing be an exploration of her helplessness that could, like, set the stage for everyone else.
Okay.
You know, like, Yuli Mizrahi, same thing. Like, you could kind of address... her stuff gets a lot easier to address when, you know, Momo's, like, in a better place emotionally. I mean, Momo thankfully gets an apology tour in 3 because, holy shit. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot I would even begin to... I do... The, like, lack of cohesion in the timelines really drives me nuts, because, like, you could just explain the Milshin conflict once, like, we don't have to keep revisiting it, but this game insists on doing so. And so it's like, ooh, the madman Yoaki Mizrahi, but you really don't learn anything new about him in this one. I think it would have been nice to learn anything new about his relationship with his wife and his daughter in this one. But, you know, wishful thinking. I don't like the, of all things, Jenny Nicholson's video on the Vampire Diaries kind of addresses this phenomenon. I don't know, did you watch that 2.5 hour long?
Of course I did.
Great. So she does talk about how, like, a lot of times when you need somebody to be in love with someone very quickly, you need them to be like a reincarnation or a clone of their, like, past self or whatever, or a doppelganger. Inuyasha does this, right? Like, Kagome is a clone of Kikyo, or Kikyo's reincarnation. And like, in here, like, Momo being a copy of Sakura is, like, shorthand for Junior being in love with her. And I'm just like, I don't know. Odd, right?
it's just easier. It's just a shortcut, right? It's because if we had to have Junior have two separate relationships with two different women, right? That would take, you'd have to expand on that and develop those relationships and like actually see that play out on screen. And this game was like clearly not in a position to build out more than like two relationships with Junior, and one of them was fucking Albedo. So like it's just, I think especially in serialized things like games or TV, it's just easier. So like I think it's bad, but I get it.
Yeah. I think the last section that we can talk about in terms of the story, right? So if we're trying to just like quickly workshop the themes of like helplessness and found family and whatnot, you have the albedo, rubido, negredo thing happening that could be adjusted with just the way you treat albedo and focusing more on Junior's reactions and a shift in perspective. The Mizrahi stuff would naturally kind of conform to that, I think, a little bit more naturally. How do you add Cosmos and Chaos into all, because they're there, they just don't do anything.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you cut them. Like, there's no reason for them to be here. Like, and I know that's not feasible, right?
So where do they go?
I think maybe you add them into like a weird C plot. Like, I think maybe like this would be like probably not fun to play through, but maybe like they have a third mission that's like, okay, we have to go and like get Cosmos some sort of like firmware update from the Federation base, and like maybe there we start seeding the whatever happens in 3, like we get more of the Testament shit, and then maybe at the very end she gets her upgrade and then she can come back in and do a shield. But I don't fucking know.
You could, okay, actually, fun fact, so that would actually be more interesting, not because of I don't think you could start seeding the Testament shit, because that kind of seeds itself, in terms of like, we know Virgil's a Testament, and then there's 3 others. Ooh, who are they? Albedo and 2 others. And I do think it would be interesting to start seeding Telos, though. Telos is another. She's also Cosmos. She's another Cosmos that you get in 3.
Shut the fuck up.
She's mean. She's mean. I think you'll like her.
Okay, well, I do love a mean, sexy lady.
Yeah,
so.
She's mean and powerful. She whips ass.
Okay.
So you could start seeding Telos, which would be very interesting. You could also start seeding maybe a little bit more about Kevin, because for all the soft boy treatment he gets in this one, wild, insane turns in the final installment.
I mean, he's like clearly evil, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
I got some pretty bad vibes from him through all his cutscenes, with Shion being like, oh, you're so great. There's no way you have a dark secret.
Do you want to guess which color Testament he is?
Yeah. Let's see. We already had white. We already have
blue.
Did you say blue? Oh,
Virgil's
shit.
blue.
I thought it was gonna be like white, black, gray, or pale.
So your four choices are white, black, red, and blue, and we already know white and blue. So red or black. So
I guess it'll be black.
And we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, I guess I'll fucking find out.
Yeah. So Kevin's characterization is so funny. He's such like truly like, I'm an emo kid, non-conforming as can be. Like, that's the vibe. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. So anyway, yeah. So if he's in Cosmos and Chaos into that, I think it might be better. And then you do your big finale with Proto Merkaba and or Proto Omega, sorry, with Proto Omega, and it bursts out and everyone feels horrible and helpless and blah 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 blah. You can continue the game from there on.
That is the one thing that I thought this did really well, is there's just a bunch of cool looking ships and like robot dragon cannons, and the scene where Proto Omega like rises from the surface of Miltia is really, really cool. And like those are the moments that I think that Xenosaga should try to drill down on. like, I know that this is largely a story about, like, fucking personhood and, imposing your will upon other people to absorb them into your own self. But, like, I do wish there was more, like, big stupid set piece space battle shit.
Right. Like, and that's what you
because
mentioned.
Because they do it well.
They do. You mentioned that earlier, right? So, like, if you make something that is, the narrative is, like, a little bit weaker, at least go ham on the visuals. And I think, despite the odd choices in realism or whatever, like, man, that moment where Cosmos makes her little sleeping bag into a bike, that fucking rules. Like, there are moments of spectacle that really work well, but they are outweighed by confusion. I don't know if you're like me, and if something is confusing, you, like, lose interest very quickly because you don't understand what's going on. But, like, that is this game.
It sure is, unfortunately.
It sure is. I do want to talk one last thing before we kind of taper into the end of our show. There is a reveal at the end that I've been meaning to talk to you about for a couple months now.
Yep. Okay,
so
a character that barely features in this game, Chaos, is revealed to be Yeshua, which I took to mean Jesus of Nazareth. Is that correct?
So when I messaged Marty about this, because I couldn't talk to you because I was waiting for you to kind of...
So you dialed your other Catholic.
Yeah, I dialed my other Catholic, and I was like, hey, who's Yeshua? And they said in all caps, Jesus! Yeah, so here's the thing. He's not. There is, like, Jesus. Like, we see Jesus in the next game.
Because he's famously Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, he's modeled after Orlando Bloom.
So then why did they call him Yeshua?
So what does that mean? I don't know.
It means this game's fucking stupid. That's what it means. I mean, somebody said, how could we just, like, really kick them right in the fucking face at the very, very end while the credits roll? God damn it.
Well, that, and then naming your dog after your murderous fucking brother.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, I was like, okay, that's kind of cute. Oh, you immediately made it worse. Great.
Oh, poor.
It's fine.
It's fine. How, man. Just, also, it's just a yappy Pomeranian, which I thought was very funny.
That is kind of funny.
Yeah, so anyway, I think you and I can call this even for the experience of Pan.
Yeah, that's true. I did not have to watch Pan, so...
Yeah, I took that burden on myself, so I think we're even now.
I'll accept that. That's a very fair trade. I would rather watch this twice than watch Pan once, I think.
Yeah, Pan was a very bad movie. Pan's crime is having been made 13 years after this game and still be as...
miserable as it was,
miserable and offensive as... And a waste of Hugh Jackman, I swear to God.
The worst crime.
So yeah, my marketing minute for this one is don't bring this back. Do something else.
Just play Xeno Gears or whatever. The one that Nintendo
Xenoblade
loves.
is good.
Xenoblade's supposedly very good, so.
Yeah, I might tap into that. But also...
Maybe that'll be our next nightmare deep dive.
Oh, Lord. Listeners, though, listen, if you want to go to ko-fi.com/lilzas and send me $250 so I can buy that Cosmos figurine... and justify
Listen,
it.
we have to subsidize your anime figurines somehow.
I only have one.
That's the problem.
That's true. It should be more. Anyway, any final parting thoughts?
I guess maybe just like if you're having trouble figuring out what to do with your narrative, take the number of characters you currently have and cut them in half, and maybe sometimes literally in this case, but just maybe scale. Maybe the most important thing we can learn is that reducing your scale is almost always a good thing to do.
For real, make me a game just about Alan and his bureaucratic nightmare. Make me
that would be great.
Make me a stealth game about Alan because nobody sees him.
Poor boy. Yeah, it's a you win. You get an S rank on every single mission. Poor Alan. Impossible to be noticed. When we're not slogging through just the most inscrutable JRPGs and also 19th century philosophy texts. Leyla, where can we be found on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. I just wrote 2 essays. I've already forgotten what they are. I am pretty quiet right now because I'm mostly playing Elden Ring. Aaron, what about you?
Unfortunately, I'm also playing Elden Ring a lot, but I am also doing some stuff. I am at AaronSXL on Twitter, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs and health policy. I do a podcast that is not this podcast at The Bible Boys, where me and my friends Michael and Josh talk about Christian media. We're going to talk about the 2000 Left Behind, hopefully this episode. I famously, the first podcast I ever did was a podcast reviewing the Left Behind first book. This movie was somehow worse than the experience of reading that book, which is a choice, but it's fine. Anyway, if you're interested in the fucking weird Judeo-Christian nightmare that is Xenosaga, maybe tap into Left Behind, because there's also some wild shit there. I also do tabletop game reviews on my YouTube channel. That's at AaronSXL or at AA Voigt at YouTube. And I'm going to have a review out about a game called Breathless, which is a really fun zombie game that is like light and compact and has some really interesting dice mechanics. So if you're interested in like Last of Us or Days Gone or whatever, check that out. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Layla, you happy with how this episode turned out?
Oh, don't be stupid. How could I be happy?
We'll see you all next week.